A retired doctor was arrested in Florida after firing his gun from his car while he was chasing after a car full of teens who just threw cheese at his Range Rover. Does having your car hit with cheese allow an individual to discharge a firearm in self-defense or defense of property? I sure hope you know the answer, but be sure to stick around to find out. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Firearm Firm channel. I'm your host James Phillips, and today we are discussing a Florida road rage case that has gotten some national attention because it involves a retired doctor, a gun, and some cheese. According to the arrest report, Dr. Buce Mitchell was arrested on May the 17th for 5 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of discharging a firearm from a vehicle. In Florida, aggravated assault is a third-degree felony which is punishable up to 5 years in prison. Some of you may be surprised to know this, but discharging a firearm from a vehicle is a second-degree felony and is punishable up to 15 years in prison. So if Dr. Mitchell is convicted of all counts, he could potentially be sentenced up to 40 years in prison. Apparently, when Dr. Mitchell had pulled up to a red light in his Range Rover, a car with 5 teenagers began throwing cheese at his car as a prank. When the light turned green, the car with the teenagers drove off, but Dr. Mitchell became angry and started aggressively tailing the teens. During this chase, the teens told law enforcement that Dr. Mitchell stuck a pistol out of his window, yelled something right before he let off a round in the air. The teens, of course, called 911, and Dr. Mitchell was stopped by law enforcement, who ordered him out of the Range Rover at gunpoint. According to the arrest report, Dr. Mitchell told law enforcement that the teens shot at him first, but then invoked his right to remain silent after that. Well, invoking his right to remain silent was the only smart thing the doc did that day. Law enforcement searched Mitchell's Range Rover, where they recovered a black Sig Sauer pistol. So, was Mitchell justified in his actions? Absolutely not, at least not based on what I've seen so far. If you said yes, please continue to watch this video so you can understand why his actions are not justified under Florida's self-defense law. To begin our analysis, we must first decide what type of force was used by Mitchell. Was it deadly or non-deadly? Well, this is pretty simple given the fact that he discharged a firearm. Currently under Florida law, the intentional or even accidental discharge of a firearm constitutes the use of deadly force. Now, we should know, or at least I hope you know, Florida law only allows a person to use deadly force under 2 circumstances. When it's necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to oneself or another person, or when it is necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony, as defined in Florida Statute 776.08. At the time Mitchell discharged his firearm, he was tailing the car with the 5 teens, and the act of them throwing cheese at his car was over with. There is definitely no argument that it was reasonable for Mitchell to believe he was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm at the time he fired his weapon, and furthermore, there's nothing to support it was necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony, as there's nothing in the arrest report to suggest the teens were committing a forcible felony at the time Mitchell fired the round. Well, what if he had fired a round while he was at the red light and the teens were in the process of throwing cheese at his car? I still would say no. And the reason is, I don't believe there is a reasonable person out there that would believe that cheese hitting their car could cause imminent death or great bodily harm to themselves, or that it would be necessary to use deadly force to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony. Remember, the standard for determining use of force in self-defense is whether a reasonable, prudent person in the same circumstances as the defendant, in this case Dr. Mitchell, would have believed such force was necessary. Now, it is true, you never know what a jury will do, but come on, we're talking about cheese being thrown at a car stopped at a red light. Does Dr. Mitchell have the argument that his force was necessary to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony? Sure. He can make any argument he wants, but I wouldn't put my money on it being successful. Looking at the list of forcible felonies found in Florida Statute 776.08, I don't think there's a specific forcible felony listed that would qualify. And based on what I know, it does not appear that there's another felony that the teens committed that would fall under the catch-all phrase of any other felony which involves the use or threat of physical force or violence against any individual. I just don't see anything from the police report that would justify the use of deadly force at this time or during the time that he fired the actual round. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Don't you have the right to protect your property? And you'd be right. Florida's defense of property is found in Florida Statute 776.031, and the pertinent portion reads, a person is justified in using or threatening to use force except deadly force against another when and to the extent the person reasonably believes that such conduct is necessary to prevent or terminate the other's trespass on or the other tortious or criminal interference with either real property other than a dwelling or personal property. So Dr. Mitchell could be justified in using non-deadly force to protect his car from the cheese attack. But then again, do you think it is really reasonable or necessary to protect his car from cheese? I mean, unless the teens were throwing a huge block of cheese, I'm not sure how cheese slices or shredded cheese could damage his car. But then again, given the circumstances, it might be reasonable to believe what the teens were throwing was not cheese and maybe something else that could damage his car. I don't know. I think it is a stretch, but like I have said, I only know what I've read in the arrest report. I think Dr. Mitchell made some very poor choices and he is going to have to deal with the consequences. This is a prime example of why anyone who is going to carry a firearm needs to be educated on the law. Remember, ignorance of the law is never a defense. Be sure to let us know what you think about this case down below in the comments section, where you can also leave any questions you have about this video or any other Second Amendment or self-defense related question. Until next time, stay armed and educated.